Three, and you guys don't want to hear from me, so I'm going to give this mic over to Austin, and I'm just going to yell. And first, let's talk about your upbringing. Your father was a former Marine, and you went from base to base with your brother Stephen. How hard was that to adjust, making new friends again and again? That's what people say when they move from base to base.
You know, it wasn't really an adjustment. It was all I knew. So it's, people ask me, what was it like, never having school friends. And I mean, I had school friends, but every year was different. Sometimes 2 schools in a year. So it wasn't that, I never realized I was missing anything. It just, that's what it was, you know what I mean? You take a child that never had a cheeseburger, and he's never going to complain to you about never having a cheeseburger because he has no idea what it tastes like. So it was just normal for me. And I wouldn't change it. I got to do and see a lot of different things growing up that way, and I got really good at adapting. No matter what the situation, no matter what the people. I spent 1 year, my 7th grade, I was in a school that they hated me because of my color. And every day at school I was in fights, and not one-on-one. They just jumped. Once they figured out I could fight, they just showed up in more numbers. And then I got expelled because it was all my fault. So I mean, I've grown up I've had great schools, great teachers, and I've had some pretty horrible ones. And I'm glad for all of it, because you can drop me in any situation and I know I'll be fine.
Now talking about your career, obviously you were a Power Ranger, then you were a paramedic for about a dozen years, and then you went back to acting. What kind of brought you back to the acting fold?
Well, I did 12 years as a medic in the DC area, and then I did 4 years as a tactical medical operator overseas in the Middle East. I lived Kuwait. Vast majority of my time was in Kuwait, but I saw Iraq and Afghanistan. And where was I? I was at Camp Bury on the Kuwaiti-Iraqi border when I got a call from Walter Jones. And he just called me up and he's like, "Hey man," and we hadn't talked in a long time. He got my number from my mom, which was funny. And because I mean, we were always tight. And he's like, "Hey, you should come back and do a Comic-Con." I was like, "A comma what?" I was like, "Is this a Boy George joke? What are you talking about?" And I called up my wife. I never really talked about the show, and it's not because I was ashamed. I moved on, like I have my whole life. One school, another school, one job, another job. I've been working since I was 9 years old. I was mowing lawns, I had newspaper routes. You just move on, you carry on. That's what life is. It's not just about today, but there's tomorrow. Today should be about bettering yourself so you can better yourself again the day after that. So I never really talked about it. So when I called her up after being in the Middle East, and I was like, "Hey, what would you think if I went back to acting?" She was like, "We never even talk about this." I was like, "Well, it was a job. I did my thing, and I'm proud of it." But she goes, "You seriously want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah, but I got to ask your permission, because if I come back to it, now it's going to be the family. It's not just me this time." And she was all for it. So now I'm back. Done several other films, other TV series. I'm getting ready to release a new comic, so that'll be out. Are any of you on my social media? Okay, you're gonna see. Well, now I can tell you the name. It's called Redemption, and it is not Power Rangers. It's going to be dark. It's going to be post-apocalyptic, dystopian, and it will be a guy about my age who looks a lot like Jason, trying to save the world. Yeah, I haven't even decided what I'm going to name him yet. I may not even give him a name yet. But it's going to be really cool, really dark. There's going to be all sorts of really cool stuff. So I'll be hitting up comicbooks.com. I've got a lot of stuff going on. I literally just started Redemption Comics Facebook, and Redemption is spelled with the number 1, where the I is, because of course, all the churches and religious folks had all the regular Redemption websites. So I had to spell it with a number 1 where the I is. But check it out on Facebook. I've got it on Instagram. It's Redemption Comics on Instagram, and I think it's just Redemption on Twitter. And you might be like the first 5 followers because I really haven't told the world about it yet. So,
what made you go into comic books?
Really coming back to the con circuit. And what I want to do is I want to build an animated TV show, and I'm going to, but it's going to be based off of the comic book. And I wanted to create something that was my own. And the great thing about comics is they're not expensive to either buy or to produce. And you can do anything you want in them. I mean, anything. And you don't have to be a novelist. It's not a novel. You know, you just have to have an incredible imagination, hire some good artists, and be able to put a story together. And so I decided to start building the fandom through a comic for what I'm going to turn into an animated series. And I'm not going to tell you this, not the name yet, but I've got one of Marvel and DC's top artists that's going to be doing my first cover. And there's going to be 4 variants, and we're going to do the foil covers and a bunch of stuff. And just stay tuned. Check out Redemption. And if you're on my social media, you'll see it popping up everywhere. It's going to be everyone that I've sat down and told a storyline to, they're just like, oh my God, I've got to have that. So it's going to be awesome.
Talk a little bit about that process of starting a comic book. Was it, hey, I had a story, hey, I had an idea, hey, I have a couple artists that are pretty good? What came when?
Well, all of that happened. It was, I guess, about 4 or 5 years ago, I did SAC Anime. And I really hadn't seen anything in the animated world, much less animated, you know, fans, anime fans. And I was like, what is all that over there? And people were in line, and they were dressed in all these outfits. I was like, what? How do I know? I knew what Pikachu was. I knew what Pokemon was. They were all over the place. I'd already been educated on that. But then I saw this, and I was like, what is that? And they're like, oh, that's Sailor Moon. I was like, and what is that? And so I began to get this education on anime and its origins, and then Japanese anime or manga. Is it manga? Manga?
Mongo.
Mongo. Yeah, that's, yeah. Mango, that's what it is. So anyway, I started to get educated on this stuff, and I was like, this is kind of cool. And then I realized that the imagination of all of these characters, they were wildly different across the board. And then I would talk with my fans, and they're like, hey, you know, if you could do a Power Rangers, what would you do? And I would always tell them, like, man, I want to do something dark. I want to, you know, you look at Batman. When Batman started, it was pow, bang, boom. It was really cheesy, rated G, lots of simple comic fun, right? But you look at Batman today, and you have the Dark Knight, and it's dark. You know what I mean? And I thought, I want to see Power Rangers go in that direction, which they will never do. And then I thought, why do I need to wait on Power Rangers? Why do I have to wait for someone else to do this? I'm going to do my own damn thing. And I started developing, first I took my character and started redeveloping him. And then I thought, and then I just built this whole other world. I'm going to have another amazing character in there. Well, I don't want to give away all the good bits. The first book may not have the first 2 characters in it, because book 1 is really, it's about the end of the world. We start out and the world is being overrun, and it's going to be intense. And you're not even going to see the main character in the first book, except from the back, or in a reflection of a blade. And there's going to be some really cool stuff. In fact, we just sent the first 9 pages to the illustrator to do. But I wanted to do something dark, but it's still going to have some fun elements. It's going to have some uplifting elements. I'm going to, I just decided I'm going to write in an autistic character who, he's going to be a sneak surprise. He's going to be awesome. So, and then I've got a little girl that I'm going to write in who is just 2, actually. And for those of you who love the show, never will we say Power Rangers or any of those things, because I don't want to get sued. But if you're familiar with Power Rangers, in the first book, you were going to see things, you're going to be like, I was sneaky as... So there's going to be some odes in there where you're going to be like, I know what he did. Did you see what he did there? I got that. Yeah, okay, I got you, man. So you're going to see some cool stuff in there. And you're going to see death and dying and spirits and fights and the end of the world. So it's going to be wild. And then I'm hoping this year when I'm done blowing it up, I did one impromptu video 2 or 3 days ago on social media, and it erupted. And I had to take the first video down because it got something like 2.5 million views in 4 hours. I was like, I didn't mean for that to happen. So I took it down, and then I waited a while and put up a sneaky version, and that one only got like 6,000 views. I was like, okay, that's better. And already I had comic book shops all over the world calling my publisher, and they're like, we want the first orders, can we do an exclusive? And I'm like, wow, that's really, really fast. Considering I've said more on what the story is about today in public than I have ever. So people really just don't know. And I'm excited because I can take this thing anywhere I want. And I have some really, really cool ideas. You guys are gonna lose your mind. It's gonna be cool.
And that's the comic book Redemption with a 1 on social media as well. You know, while I was researching you a couple nights ago, one project you did was The Order.
Yep.
A couple, Star Trek alums, Marina Sirtis, Michelle Nichols, the Australian James Bond, and then I was like, so, how many other Power Rangers are in this? And it was like, here's David Yost, here's Walter Jones, here's Aaron Cahill. Again, talk about how that came about, and, is it a Power Rangers reunion show?
So the idea was developed by Karen Ashley. She's producing. She's the one that's in charge of that behemoth, and she did a great job. In fact, her design, her writing, she did an incredible job. But we all teamed up to really get it out there to the fans, and she coordinated most of that. So I really have to give her credit for 99.9% of it. And she reached out to all of us, and everybody loves her. She's like our little ray of sunshine. She's just sweet and bright, and everybody loves her. And she wanted to put something together that brought all of the Rangers from multiple generations together for the fans. And she did. She created The Order. She wrote a script. We all flew to LA. And, well, I flew. A lot of them were already out there. And we were on set, ready to film. And we had permission from SAG, which is the union if you're an actor. And they all gave us permission. We were ready. We had stunts there. I was choreographing my first fight for the movie. And the union came in the day before we filmed and shut it down. So now she's repackaging it, and I think she's working on trying to turn it into a TV series. And the last I heard from her, maybe a couple of weeks ago, she's having some great talks and good conversations, and she holds out high hopes to get it into a series, and then we'll start again.
I mean, it was a great cast of folks out there.
Yeah.
So let's open up to questions. Anyone have any questions for Austin here? Oh, there you go, right in front.
How old were you when you started? How old were you back in 1993?
I signed the contract a week before my 18th birthday. So I was in high school, definitely had attitude, and I was definitely typecast. It worked great. Like, there's a literal teenager with attitude. He's perfect. Let's hire him. Like, what are you talking about? I don't have attitude. Shut up. You're hired. Great. So, yeah, so that was young, real young. Yeah, I dropped out of high school. My dad was... Are there littles in here? There's one little. Okay. So my dad was mad. And later I went back and got my GED and got 2 college degrees, but my dad was mad.
In the blue.
My question, you came back for the seal. What was it like doing the power transfer with the delinquenture, transfer for you?
Yeah, the triplets. They were great guys. They were all really nice. And they were professionals, and I mean, we all did our job. They were great to work with. But it was kind of a cool... So you know when you're a kid and you're playing G.I. Joe or Sailor Moon or whatever you're playing, it's absolutely real in your mind. You know, how, like there's no escaping it. I'm the Red Ranger, I'm Superman, I'm Spider-Man, whatever you are. But as kids, you get into a group and then you have to imagine together and you create. Swallowed a bug or something. You have to create this whole imaginary place. When it came to Triforia, a good actor will have the ability to create literally what is going on in their mind, and the director will help them create that and then bring it out in a scene as you film. That's weird. So it was one of those things where, you know, the director comes in and he's like, all right, you're going to hold up the staff, and when you hold the staff, we're going to put in the special effects, and there's going to be gold light, and it's going to be filling you and imbuing you with power, and then as an actor, you have to capture that and make it real. And, you know, then the special effects come later, but it doesn't look that cool when you're filming it. You know, it's just kind of not that exciting unless as an actor and a crew and a cast, you can make it exciting. So it was a cool process. It was a neat thing to go through. It was pretty awesome to do.
In green up front.
Oh yeah. Did your dad's being a Marine, did it help, you know, influence you on how to be a leader for Jason? Like, did that background inspire you?
Oh, absolutely. My mom and dad both inspired me. My mom was one of the first female cops in Roswell, New Mexico in the 1970s. And that's when women didn't belong. They were not allowed in the police. And, you know, unless they were going to be a secretary or something. You know, it was I mean, that was the world of sexism back then. And my mom was one of the first females to break that code. She was a tough girl. And, yeah, they tried to have her killed for it. So she graduated literally from rookie school. They took her gun and her badge, put her in a super slinky dress because she's hot, and sent her into an undercover Mexican drug bar to figure out who the drug dealer leader was, with no backup. And she got through it and got out and got the information and provided what was needed to knock down the drug guys. And she made all the top dogs, all the big tough police captains and lieutenants that didn't want her there look like complete idiots. And then she met one guy, Gary, who was like 6'6", and he's like, and my mom is, you know, 5'8". She's not a big girl in any manner. She's tiny, but feisty. And Gary took her under his wing, and together they beat the hell out of crime in Roswell. So my mom was a huge inspiration. She's a very walk softly but carry a big stick kind of woman. And my father, officer and a gentleman, he was a hard man when I grew up. He was a tough man, for sure. And then he got a lot softer as he grew older, and we got a lot closer. But he was a man's man. He was and I mean, today you'd call that what? Toxic masculinity or some crap name for it. It's just being a man, and there's nothing wrong with being a man. And that's what he was, and I'm proud of him. And you know, he was a shooter, he was a fisherman, he was a camper, he was a survival expert, he was a Marine, and that's what you should be. And but he was never, he treated ladies like ladies. He taught me what chivalry was. Yes ma'am, yes sir. I use it all the time. I use it with fans, I use it with my elders. It's just respect. He taught me how to respect others for whoever they are and whatever they do. Whether I agree with them or not is irrelevant. It doesn't mean I can't treat them decent, right? So he was a lifetime martial artist. He was a hell of a warrior. But you'd never know it. He was 5'9". And he could walk into a room and blend in and disappear, or you put him in uniform and he could walk into the room and every head would turn. And people would just stop speaking because he could put on an air of authority that was incredible. And hyper intelligent. Hyper intelligent. You were not, he could sell ice to an Eskimo and make them grateful for the deal. You know what I mean? He's the kind of guy that you did something wrong, he could tell you all about how you did wrong, why it was wrong, and then have you thanking him for the education when he was done chewing your butt. I mean, it just, great man. So both of them inspired me. And my time as, you know, a leader in sports in high school, my time teaching martial arts, leading, that was a lot of what I applied leadership-wise to Jason. I wanted him to be humble, like my parents. I wanted him to be intelligent. I wanted him to be a warrior. But I wanted everything but the warrior part to be almost invisible until it was time to go to battle. And I wanted him to be soft-spoken and supportive and friendly. And so that's why Jason was always low-key, easygoing, no problems. And there was one time when you knew there was a heavy transition, and that's when it's morphin' time. When that line came out, Jason was no longer being nice. That was his war cry. That was his announcement that the game is over, or literally it was getting started, depending on how you look at it. But that was his announcement to the world. Game on.
Thank you, Austin.
Yeah.
Martial arts?
Yeah, well, I started when I was 5, and I was training with my dad, and then he went off to a war. War probably most of you have never even heard of. It was in El Salvador. And it was the war against the FNLN. It was a guerrilla group trying to take over the Salvadorian government. And he went down there and worked with the CIA and all sorts of super spooky dudes. He brought down the Medellin cartel. I mean, he did a lot of stuff that he would never tell you about. He had a bunch of medals, and they just lived in his sock drawer. Yeah, here's Valor, Purple Heart, Silver Star, in his sock drawer. He didn't care. He's like, ah, that's not why I did it. Never cared, never had him on the wall. And it was something. But yeah, so he left, and then my mom took me and put me into judo, which was my first official dojo. And I started learning judo, and I just never stopped. And then as we moved, you know, I used to get mad because I was like, Dad, how am I going to get a black belt? I can't stay anywhere long enough. He says, what difference does the belt make? And I said, well, I want a black belt. He goes, okay, but what does a black belt represent? I was like, well, knowledge, expertise. He's like, okay. He goes, let me ask you this. I was 8. He says, who do you think is going to have more knowledge and expertise in 10 years after you have moved all around the world and trained at countless dojos? Maybe you'll get a black belt, or 5. But you're going to have knowledge from a bunch of different martial arts that not many other people are going to have. And so he made me hybrid. I was hybrid before the Gracies came out and made being a hybrid fighter famous. So I had the ground game, I had the strike game, I had the kick game. And it was pretty incredible. And the black belts came later, you know, but to this day, I don't care. My black belts are, I think they're in a box somewhere. Not the sock drawer, but they're in a box somewhere, because it's not the belts that matter. In fact, I've had studios call me up and they're like, we'd love to have you come teach. You know, we'll teach you our system. You could probably pick it up in a month, and you know, we'd love to put a black belt on you. And I'm like, I'm happy to come teach for you, but I have no interest in your belt. I don't need it. That's not what it's about. Not in my mind. Not if you're going to be a martial artist that truly practices humility. It's the knowledge.
In the far back there.
Yeah. We have the little one behind you.
Little one behind you, yeah.
Did you hear that?
So which Power Rangers do you like better, the original or the new? Oh,
The original armor or the ninja armor from the movie? Which one was your favorite?
Oh, well, I wasn't in the movie. I didn't wear the ninja armor. That was Steve Cardenas. Yeah. So I got it, well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of suits that are cool, but there's only one that is iconic, and that's the original 5. They're the iconic suits. You show those to anybody in 40 countries and 90 languages around the world, and they know exactly what you're talking about. You could show them some of the ninja suits, and I'm betting you half of them wouldn't get what you were talking about. So, for me, it's always going to be the first 5 suits, although I love the Gold Ranger suit. That was pretty cool. That had some bling. That was cool.
questions? Oh. Go ahead, sir. Red shirt.
Anything in particular you like, disliked, or opposed? weird about the direction they took your character in those Boom Studio comics?
Well, I think I've read maybe one or two of them. I haven't read a lot of them. Things that I've heard about that I liked. I loved when Jason and Trini switched costumes and became a thing, because Jason would have never dated Kimberly, ever. I don't do high maintenance. Neither does Jason Lee Scott. Trini would have been the direction that Jason went, and you know, if I'd had a little more courage back in the day, I might have asked her out myself, but I just was, yeah, I was 18. What did I know about girls? I was terrified. So, yeah, I think that's about what I would have to say on that one.
And in front, yellow.
Alright, so as an actor, you came back for Power Rangers, you were in Power Rangers, then Zeo, then you were in Wild Force for the Forever Red. What change did you know? What change did you notice when coming back? Like, I mean, it's okay to say, I know you guys were treated kind of unfairly for Power Rangers. And then, I mean, did you notice a lot of change in Beast Morphers? Did you notice a change in the studio set, the people that worked there, Saban? Did you notice a change every time you came back?
Most of the time when I came back, it was quick. It was quick and dirty. When I came back for Forever Red, I mean, it was still a lot of the original people. The cast was different. I mean, that was different. 10 Red Rangers. It's like, when did that happen? You know, like 10. How did we get to 10? I did 86 episodes as Red, and then another 17 as Gold. Like, and these guys were doing maybe 20 episodes, and then they were out. I was like, wow. I couldn't wrap my mind around that. So that was different. And then I watched, well, I guess, and then when I came back for Beast Morphers, we weren't even filming in the US anymore. We were filming in New Zealand. So that was a major change. And that was really cool. I mean, New Zealand was, aside from it takes forever to get there, it was really cool. So I enjoyed that. And yeah, forever. Yeah, all of it.
What I meant was, like, were you treated obviously differently every time you came back?
I was always treated with respect by the crew. The crew wasn't the problem. The cast and the crew, we were all in the same boat. It was the producers who were rarely ever even on set. The guys that owned the show, well, it was the guy that owned the show that didn't care. And he was the problem, but he was never on set. At least not very often. In fact, I know casts that never even met him. That's how detached he was. We saw him in the beginning, but he just didn't care about his cast or his crew. They were slaves to make him his billions, and that's what we did. So being on set wasn't a problem. It was just knowing how little we were all being paid. It kind of brought a lot of us close together, because, you know, you suffer together and that creates bonds. But we also had great times. You know, it wasn't all Debbie Downer. There was a lot of good times too. You know, you get lemons, make lemonade, and that's a lot of what we did.
Well, in the front.
You'd like to know how long were you a Red Ranger?
How old?
How long?
At what age did you start?
I started, well, I got hired at 17. We started filming at 18. And I think I filmed, yeah, 93. I probably filmed through 1995. And then I left the show, and then I came back in 96 and did the Gold Ranger series and the second Fox film. And then, yeah, that was it. And then I think I came back in 2000 for Forever Red with Wild Force. And then I came back 2 years ago for Beast Morphers in New Zealand. So it's been off and on. They send me an invitation almost every year, and it's just most of the time I turn it down because it's got to be done right. In fact, when I was in Iraq, I got an invitation to come back for Super Mega Smackdown, whatever that one. And you know, they're like, yeah, we'll pay you $2,000 to fly from Iraq to New Zealand for 2 weeks and film Super Thing, whatever that was. Yeah, it was like $2,000. Number one, I'd have to breach my contract with the Army. then I would lose my security clearance, and then I could never ever contract in the Middle East again. And by the way, I'm the doc for the team, so if I leave, they don't have any medical care. I'm like, yeah, no, thanks. I mean, $2,000 is tempting, but no thanks.
What's your favorite scene in like Power Rangers? Like your favorite fight scene?
Favorite fight scene? Probably when I fought Goldar. There are a lot of firsts and onlys for Jason, and fighting Goldar or any monster unmorphed, I think I'm the only ranger still that has ever done that. And in the dimension, I think that was Green with Evil. So Jason is the first and only to fight a monster unmorphed. He's the only to defeat Tommy. He's the only to have the power of 3 rangers at one time. He had, because Triforia, each of those rangers gave him his power. So that was literally the most powerful ranger they've ever created. He was cool looking. I love that suit. And it's funny because as the Red Ranger, I was, 18, 19, 20. They had me with my shirt off all the time, no sleeves. Like, I was like, I'm sure this shirt came with sleeves. Like, where do you find all this stuff? And I can remember the producer, she would just come in and look at me and look at my clothes and be like, he doesn't need a shirt for that outfit or that outfit. She was a cougar. She scared me. She was, ooh, that was creepy. But when I came back as a Gold Ranger, I was like 24, and I had been professionally competing in the martial arts, so I was jacked. And I came back and they're like, put a shirt on it. You don't look like a teenage boy anymore. I was like, what are you talking about? So it was a little different. And it was good that the suit was black, because even in the suit, like my thighs were almost 30 inches. It was ridiculous. They're like, yeah. I think one episode they put me in a tank top and they're like, wow. I was like, yeah, it was a different time. So, cool.
Let's give a hand for Austin St. John.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
We'll be signing autographs for the next couple hours over in the pavilion across the way. You can ask him about his